Hi everyone, I'm JD from Willowbound Journals, and I've got a flip through of this journal that I'm calling my art junk journal, and it's just a really sweet one. It's made out of chipboard from one of the back of those paper pads and I just covered it in this beautiful sweet fabric. I love these beautiful flowers and just scrappy and junky. For the pages, I only used the end papers found in books. So thrifted books from the op shop. You know how the front and back papers or pages of books usually are blank. I just ripped those out and put them together to make this journal, and I absolutely love the vintage ones especially. But the fact that I'm reusing book pages and the fact that I'm a reader and I love journaling, it all just, I know, I love it. It's something I really want to do in the future as well. Just a note, look at the rainbows from my crystal hanging in my window. I love it so much. Okay, so I haven't even done a first page here yet. I'll do that at some stage. But I actually started in the middle. So true junk sort of journal, I have just been working on any random page, and I started the 14th of December last year. And I just started this journal because I wasn't sure how to express myself at the time. I've got a journal with me video showing how I did this page. And I just, was really feeling frustrated because I've always had a creative outlet. I've always been creative, can't not create, but I go in phases. So I would color in, I would draw, I would paint, I would make jewelry, I would take photos, I would write poetry, I would do mixed media, I would do card making, scrapbooking, and then junk journaling. And I feel like what's the next thing after junk journaling, you know? What's the next thing? And I didn't have anything at the time. And so I just sort of, I know this is still junk journaling, but more of the art journal style and collage, where it's scrappy and more visual and not caring about the final composition, not caring about what it looks like. This is all just pure expression, which this is why I'm calling it art journaling. Whereas junk journaling, it's sort of more scrapbooking, memory keeping, and more journaling. The journaling style is just writing. So this is just more, I don't care what I'm creating, I'm just having fun putting stuff on the page, and that's what this journal is. A place to get things out of me. And so that's what I was just writing here. How do I express myself now? I need a creative outlet, and this is what came out of it. So I'll go from the start now. So at the start, what I was doing from about these pages onwards, these pages here, I was doing sort of a book draft for the book that I'm working on this year. And at first I thought I was going to focus on my whole life from birth to present and just focus on the beginning especially. So this is documenting kind of my birth. So this is one of my birth cards, my passport. I was born in South Korea, for those who don't know, but I was adopted at 4 months old. And so that was my passport coming from South Korea to Australia. And then this is a page about my name, spelt it out with some stickers. My first name means grace and hope, and my second name, Desiree, means wanted, because my parents wanted me to know that I was wanted. And there is my name there. Fun fact, though, I've got ancestry, because now that I'm adopted, my family is here in Australia, and their ancestry, part of it is from Norway. So my surname could have been Johansson. I could have been Johansson. But some story happened. They named it after the cattle on the farm. They moved to Canada, and there were so many people with the same last name, and so of Johansson, and so they changed it to the cattle on the farm. And then it got shortened over the years. Anyway, so this one's about, I've talked about this in one of my mental health videos, about my struggle with existence. and this will actually go in the book, I'm pretty sure. So I've changed it from, I'm not going to be focusing on from birth to now. I'm going to be focusing on just sort of the last 3 years, just to give it some specific place to anchor my stories, but they still have the same questions that I was going to look at in the book, if from birth to present. The same questions of how do we live, how do we be ourselves, how do we deal with the suffering and the struggles of life. And one of my struggles in life has always been the struggle of existence, of just being here without, no control over it, no say over where you're born, when you're born, that you're even born in the first place. And so that will go into the book somehow, my struggle with existence. And then this line might go into it. I journal to know my outer world and inner world and how the two affect each other, all that dynamic. And then I just had questions like, do I write about the time I was in kinder? Do I write about the time I was in prep? And there's 2 stories that I wrote about there. Do I write about the time I went to a party, a fairy party, and I was the only one that didn't have a fairy costume, and just, feeling like you don't belong, and how that led to, and not just that, but that's an example of a story from my life. Early on, how I felt like I didn't fit in at school and that kind of thing. I was a nerd and a geek and a teacher's pet, and that wasn't a fun thing to be when you're in primary school. You get teased for being those things, but when you get older, you like it. Well, I did anyway. I come to embrace it, and now I am proud to call myself a nerd and a geek. And then this is a story about writing and journaling, and how probably my very first story of writing, and how I fell in love with writing, and a poem that I wrote when I was in grade 4. My first published piece of work was a poem in grade 4 when it was put into the school bulletin. I was very proud. And then I was going to see if I would write about the haircut that I had when I was, 3 or 4 years old, and I was mortified. It was so short that there was a tail at the back of my neck, and I was just like, I wanted to hide. And so from then on, I'm like, I'm having long hair. And then I grew my hair up until like I was year 10. So 12 years later, it's probably year 11, maybe year 12 is when I finally cut my own hair for the first time. Like I had trims, but then I cut it like really short. So I did have long hair, and then I cut it really short. And then, from then on, I just grew it long, cut it short, grew it long, cut it short. And I've had that phase throughout my life post high school. Now I'm in the phase of long hair though. And then from here on, it became more of a reflection of my current life, just where I'm at whenever I needed to express something. So this one was, I listened to a couple podcasts, and there were a few things that jumped out at me, so I just wrote about them in here. And it's just a landing place for me to put some thoughts, some things I'm learning, some things that I'm working on, some struggles that I put in here. This is just writing about my favourite place when I was younger, with the weeping willow, which Willow Bound Journals is named after. Isn't this willow beautiful? So that will go in a book one day. I'm not sure if it'll go in this book that I'm writing this year, but just about how the willow was my safe place, and that's what a journal is, a safe place. And this is my quote for the year. It is no bad thing to celebrate a simple life, by J.R.R. Tolkien. And my paraphrase version is, I want to live a slower, smaller, simpler life, just embracing the everyday moment. So this year, I'm not teaching ballet anymore, which is so good, because I found it a bit too stressful for me last year. This is what I mean by a slower, simpler, smaller life. Cutting out things that, it was good and it was a fun challenge, and I'm glad I did it. It was a dream come true, but it's like teaching. You bring the job home, and you have to lesson plan and do all that stuff outside of the classroom. And I just wanted to create when I'm at home, and journal and do my own little world of creativity. And I didn't want to have the stress of choreographing and lesson planning. So that's just me. I'm glad I did it, like I said, because it taught me and grew me, and I learned about myself through it, and I learned that it wasn't for me. Anyway, so we've got a new teacher, which is awesome, because she has learned, or she's teaching us a different style of ballet. So we were learning RAD, Royal Academy of Dance, I believe it is, and she's teaching us the Cocooning method, which I believe is an Italian method, and I'm really enjoying it because it's a lot more flowy and a lot more, for me, graceful, and each move flows into the other, and get to use the hands and the head and the body and the neck, and everything flows together as one type of thing, and I really like that, so I'm excited. And yeah, this page is about another principle that I've got this year, is to use the things. It's time to use the treasures. And this was actually a line, use the things, that God gave me one day when I was in bed. I love how God can just speak so randomly out of the blue sometimes. Just, I was lying on my bed and all of a sudden I got this sentence in my head, use the things. I'm like, I just was exploring that. I felt it came from God, and he was just saying, now's the time to use the things. I'm like, oh, okay. Because, I've just realized over my years of collecting and hoarding and saving things, towards the last year or so, I've just been not as excited about junk journals, basically, which is, I've been talking a lot on my channel this year about how I'm transitioning from journal making to book making, and I'm very excited about making books again. I lost that dream for a few years there, but it's come back, and that's my new outlet, is bookmaking. So I've gone from, journal making to bookmaking, which is really cool, and I'm not sure what will come after bookmaking, but who knows. Anyway, so I've just realized I don't have that same excitement making journals, especially like my personal journals, and then I'm looking at all the stuff that I've hoarded, and I'm like, some days I look at it and I just don't feel at all like I'm going to use it ever, because I've lost that excitement for myself. And I'm like, no, but it comes back. It hasn't gone completely. It comes back, and I'm like, no, I still want to do something. I still want to do something with all those things I've hoarded and make those journals that I've wanted to make, those personal, special treasure journals. But I've got to do it now while I am still excited, because in a year's time I might not care anymore, and because I've moved completely onto bookmaking, and then it will just be a waste of having all these things that I was intending to use in a certain way, which now I don't want to do anymore. Anyway, so using the things, no more buying things unless I need it, for my business, but no more buying random things just for myself to collect. And so just getting the things, or using the things from my own stash that I know are the things that I've wanted to make. If that makes sense. And everything else I've decluttered and donated to the Beyond Blue and Mental Health Fundraiser, which is really cool. Just writing about the book Phosphorescence that I read. I've already talked about that on my channel before, how it came at the right time, and it gave me another little principle for the year to look up and out and just get out of my small mind and, really be aware of the suffering around me in the world, and that my problems really aren't problems, they're just inconveniences. Keanu, how he continues to give me joy and comfort. And I say, here's my cat and I am his human. This is a story about an answered prayer. So that was very, very cool, just recording that. This is another frustrated page. Often I just turn to collage if I'm frustrated and I don't know what I'm doing. And I was just feeling anxious because I was overwhelmed by all the things I could do or wanted to do. And so I just do nothing because I'm like, I'm never going to get it all done. And there's just too many things, so I may as well just give up and just not do anything. So, I want to do all these things in a day, and there's not enough time in a day to do all these things. So I just lie there freaking out, paralyzed, because I'm like, well, what's the point? Because I'm not going to be able to do all of them. And it's like, just do one of them. Just at least do one of them. Anyway, so saying yes to something instead of saying no to everything. That's just a little lesson I had to write down for myself. Saying no to everything is bad as saying yes to everything. So just choose something, even if it's just one thing. Anyway, I've already talked about that page. Another little life lesson that will go into my book, that I'll just never have it all figured out. I always feel like throughout my life, I'm like at a certain age or a certain time in my life, I'll be at peace and I'll have figured it out and I'll be okay with myself and I'll be okay with life. And maybe I'll never will be, and it's just about learning to be content in the fact that life is a struggle. I know that sounds a bit depressing, but for me it's encouraging and comforting, because it's like, there's no standard that you have to reach, and you're not deficient in any way when you can just accept, this is it. Acceptance commitment therapy, that's another thing I've talked about in a mental health video that helps me a lot. For me, it's comforting. If acceptance commitment therapy isn't something that works for other people and it makes you more stressed, then get rid of it. But for me, it makes me more comforted to know, it's always going to be a bit messy. Life is always going to be a bit chaotic. I'm always going to have things I don't like about myself. I'm always going to struggle with some things in life, and that's okay. There's not some utopia in this life where you're going to think everything's beautiful and perfect. It's about just finding that beauty, I guess, in the mess rather than the perfection. And then this was a little note as well. Our struggles don't disqualify us from bringing good into the world and helping people. They actually qualify us, because when I can share my struggles, there's someone else out there who has the same struggle, who needed to know they weren't alone. And when you share your struggles, you help me feel less alone. And so they qualify us to be a good help in the world. This is a chandelier that it's a dream of mine to have chandeliers, or a chandelier in my room, crystal doorknobs and a bead curtain and crystals hanging from my windowsills, the windows, and just, my world will have, this is a draft page of my book actually, with sequins. I want sequins on a page, and this is literally a page in my book. My world will have, it won't necessarily look like this, but that's what the text of the book will have. A little envelope here, I'm not sure, I'll put something in there eventually. I called this year at the start of the year my cocoon year, because I just wanted to go a bit internal this year and really just focus on my own, nurturing my creativity, nurturing my inner voice, so to speak. It sounds a bit Fruit Loopy, but you know what I mean, like getting connection with myself to hear what's actually inside of me, so I can bring that forth in my book that I'm working on this year. So it's a very internal, very private, very slow process, and so I just wanted to have sort of a cocoon year. But halfway through the last month, I realized, oh my goodness, I'm too much cocooning. And because when you spend too much time cocooning or too much time alone in your own room, in your own world, you end up going a bit crazy. You end up losing touch with reality a little bit, and you end up, for me, my thoughts sort of turn naturally towards the dark side, a bit negative self-talk, all that happening. So I was like, I need to get out of the house. And so I already do, ballet every Thursday and church every Sunday. And aside from that, I don't really do anything. And I'm okay with that. Again, I'm an introvert. I am a homebody. This is my happy place at home. I just realized maybe that's not enough. And so I messaged my dance teacher and said, can I join the adult class? I hope it's not too late, because I did the adult class the last 2 years. And I just thought it was too much to do it this year, because I really needed that internal space. But then I was just like, no, I need to get out of the house again and just have that social time. Even if it's not for the dancing, it's just to be with people and just to get out of the house and expose myself to life outside of my own head, basically. So I did this for my own health, for my own self-care, when I recognized that about what was happening. And so every Wednesday I have the adult dance class, which is kind of a jazz style. And then the Thursday I have ballet. And so that just helps. This is me documenting Easter and how I was actually feeling, at the time a bit, I didn't write the date on this one, a bit not great. And that was, right before I got sick. So that might have had something to do with it. But yeah, fun documenting that. Again, this was just on my mind. I forgot that I'd already written about decluttering on that other page where I was talking about using the things. But because this is what I was currently bringing to the page, I was showing up, and this is what I was thinking about and feeling, so I just wrote it. And so I don't mind that I've written it twice, because I obviously needed to put this down on the page again. It came up again. I need to declutter. I need to use the things. Now is the time. While you still like the things and want to use them now. So I just needed to write that again. Sometimes I prepare pages because I just have things I want to use, rather than being in a shelf or a box or something on a shelf in a box. So I've put them on there. I know I wanted to use them. I've had these in my stash for the last year or two. So now I've committed. I've used the things. I don't know what I'm going to write, but it doesn't matter. This one is inspired by the book Phosphorescence, and I just want to capture that, how that's what I was thinking about at the time. Look up and out and find the magic around you. And then I love this quote. This is a piece that came through from the donations, crafty donations. So this was a piece in one of my mystery packs. I bought 3 mystery packs. There are still a few mystery packs left if you're interested in my Etsy. Dance like there's nobody watching. Love like you'll never be hurt. This writing is really hard to read. Sing like there's nobody listening. Live like it's heaven on earth. I especially love this one. Dance like there's nobody watching. As a dancer, I love that. And I remember exactly when I first read this. It was on the charity walk from Sydney to Melbourne, and we were in this town called, I think it was called Mogo something. And we walked into this craft shop, and it had this like quote on a wooden piece. And it hit me. I was like, yes, because that was what the walk was all about. Just not caring what people thought, doing something crazy. And that was my version of dancing like no one was watching. And I would dance on the road from Sydney to Melbourne. They'd put on some music. Our support car would play music sometimes and be like, dance, dance. And I would just run off down the road dancing to the music. And again, I'll never do that in my normal life, but because I was on the walk from Sydney to Melbourne, I was like, anything goes. Let's just do it. Who cares what people think? You know, we're walking down the road in safety fluoro vests, and people are staring at us every single day that we're on the road. So it's like, who cares if I'm dancing down the road? Anyway, and then this one is talking about when I got sick and how I didn't feel like myself and was just in a really kind of dark place when I got sick. And then I watched Nanette and Douglas by Hannah Glasby, and it was just brilliant. I loved it. It's my new Hamilton, I call it. Just when you see someone who's good at their craft and knows what they're doing and does it, whatever it is, it's wonderful. And it just helped me to see like the medium of comedy and how that can tell a story and how that can connect. And it made me connect with someone else's story. And I love that through the art of comedy. That's crazy. I ended up reading her biography straight afterwards because I was just so inspired, and just helped me to get out of my own head, realizing, my problems aren't really actual problems and there's actual real suffering in the world around me. And it stopped me from woe is me to actually caring about the people around me instead of just being self-absorbed. And so she does sort of these art lectures as well, art history pieces in her sets, and I love it. So this was just a Monet picture. Monet is one of my favorite artists, to go with that. Some washi tape swatches just for fun. I just really like this quote: perhaps love is the process of leading you gently back to yourself. I love that. I don't really know exactly what it means for me, but I'll journal about that one day. Piano. So earlier this year I went through a bit of a traumatic time and this was something that helped me, playing piano. As soon as I played piano, as soon as I felt anxious if I played piano, I was just transported to a place of calm and soothing instantly. And also Lord of the Rings. I bought the Lord of the Rings extended edition DVDs, because Lord of the Rings is my favorite movie, and I just watched those for like weeks after this experience, and that helped me just, again, instantly as soon as I watched it, in a different place, and so good. So it's been a big year of self-care this year. And this one just a reminder to self, because sometimes I forget about if I should write or not. And I believe I've been called to write, that writing is the way I most know myself, and writing is the best way that I can be effective in the world. You know, we're going to be effective in a million different ways, but for me, writing is the most effective way I can be, because it feels like the most I am me, if that makes sense, when I write. So, I was just getting a bit disillusioned with the book. I'm like, why am I even doing this book? It doesn't even matter. No one will care. And it's so stupid anyway, what I'm writing. And it just as I was reading through my journal entries and remembering why I'm writing, it's like, no, do it anyway, because this is how you're bringing good into the world. And my words, I felt God say to me, my words would be a lamp in dark places, and my writing would be a light helping people out of their darkness. And my job is just to show up and do the work. That's all, just to write a little bit each day, which I don't do, which I used to do. But write words that come from my heart, and write what I go through. And I don't need to know the end result of the book. I just explore, follow the curiosity, and be okay with the unknown. So, yeah. And then this was about a 2-hour phone chat with my sister. And, you know, I was just going on and on about Nanette and how it inspired me. So talking about that. And then, yeah, I've almost actually finished this journal. Oh my gosh. I didn't realise I'd almost finished. I could have saved the flip through to the very end, but that's all right. I said I wanted to do a flip through of this in April, and then I got sick, and so May is okay. That's the whole thing. It is okay whenever you get to things. But yeah, I wasn't sure how to do the flip through, whether I just did a quick, or if I went page by page into each thing. But yeah, I will continue finishing this, and I'm loving this type of journaling style this year, where it's just no fuss, no rhyme or reason, just whatever I'm feeling at the time. I show up and I bring it to the page, and that's what comes out. So I think I'm going to continue this for the next journal and see how we go. Just a form of self-expression in a journal. So I hope that's inspiring as well, just to see what can be done in a journal. You know, it's always inspiring for me to see different types of journaling. And there's a different type of journal for different seasons, for different moods you're in, different times of your life. And this is just what's suiting me at this time. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that flip through. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.